Man, what a game. What a game. I got to tell you, this was probably the most exciting Carolina Panthers game that I've watched since probably 2017, as far as the intensity. Cam Newton against the Eagles, down 17 in the fourth quarter, comes back and wins the game, right? This was, and I mean, that was more meaningful because we still had playoffs on the line. So it's a little bit different. But just the intensity of seeing, like, man, you're going toe to toe with the champs, with a team that is trying to basically seal their fate in history as the best to ever do it. 3 championships in a row, right? With one of the quarterbacks that will arguably go down as one of the best in history. And our quarterback and our team stood up to the task. This game was incredible from start to finish. 2 punts, I believe, in the entire game, right? That was incredible. A defense that stood up toe to toe with Patrick Mahomes. Now, granted, there's players that they don't have. They don't have Isaiah Pacheco. They don't have Rashee Rice. Mecole Hardman isn't like a steady in that offense like he used to be. Travis Kelce looks like a shell of himself. But it doesn't matter. This is still a team that has won back-to-back Super Bowls and 9-1 looking to win a third in a row. And yet they come into the bank and you stand up with them and you have a game that really was the best game total that we've played, in my opinion, the entire season, even including the Raiders game, right? The Raiders, I mean, that situation turned out to be what it is for them. You see what they are as a team. You know, no disrespect to the Raiders, but it just is what it is. This is creme de la creme. Like, there's probably maybe 3 or 4 teams this whole year. Like, I saw a stat somewhere that suggested that Joe Burrow and the Bengals, Josh Allen and the Bills, and us put up the most points against the Chiefs. It may be points, yard differential, something like that. Y'all fact check me on it if you want to. But the point is that you're not going to see too many teams play the Chiefs like that well. And for us to do that, and I said something in my last video where I talked about the Denver Bronco game, and I talked about how the team that we saw play the Denver Broncos is not the same team that we saw play against the Kansas City Chiefs. Wouldn't be, right? It's a completely different situation. You got different rotations. Seeing guys like DJ Wanham come back, you know, you had Ashawn Robinson, you know, making big-time plays, getting big push. We had 5 sacks today, which is huge considering we're dead, like second to last in the entire league in sacks. This was just a great outing. It was great to watch from top to bottom, right? Energy, effort. You can see the guys are really starting to buy into what Dave Canales is selling. And that's huge, especially when you consider like the picks, right? We saw Brooks today. Brooks didn't have a huge day at all. You know, you could tell he's on a pitch count. They try to say what he is, right? We could clearly see that. They didn't run the ball. They didn't go super committed to the run, but I'm glad that they didn't at the same time. But, and we'll get into that more in a second, I'm more glad that we got to see a team that is buying in. The young picks, the young players are buying in. The older players, the veterans, are showing the younger guys how to buy in, right? Seeing David Moore be like Bryce's primary target today. That was incredible, right? Seeing someone like Adam Thielen, who earlier this year had a fit, you know, because of not being targeted in a moment where he felt like he should have been, be okay with kind of playing the back role of like, hey, you know what? If David's getting off, if XL getting off, if JT getting off, I'm going to just play my role. That's what you want to see. And you start to see, but really what that boils down to is Dave Canales' foothold on this team and him building this team in the image that he wants to see them moving forward. That's extremely exciting. It's extremely encouraging. Why? Because it creates continuity. There's a good chance, I would say 100% chance at this point, that we're going to go into next season with the same head coach, the same quarterback, the same D coordinator, same offensive coordinator, right? Now, I know many people will probably be like, yo, I don't know about the E.J. Avero thing. I mean, in my opinion, and I'll do a video on this at a later time, really pass rush and getting a more solid foundation at nose tackle could change this entire defense. Because the back end of this defense struggled today, yes, against Patrick Mahomes, right? But they held their own. J.C. Horn was really, really aggressive, which is kind of hit or miss. We knew that about him going in. He's going to be one of those players that's like, yo, either I'm going to get I'm going to get called for holding all the time, or I'm going to be super aggressive. And I mean, he played his role, right? That's what he does. And that's cool because it worked. And when it didn't, it didn't. But the point is that you see these players buying in. It's exciting too because we have 11 picks going into next draft. I don't know if all those picks will become players. I don't know if we'll, trade some of those picks for other players and other teams and situations that may work out better for us. But if I'm going off of what I saw today, and salute to JT Sanders, man, we're praying for you. Hope that you get better. It was a scary, scary situation. But the play, the big time first down, guys like him, Trevin Wallace, some big tackles. He had some misses too. He got ran over a couple of times too. But he's a developing young rookie. You can see the promise. If this is what we have to look forward to with the Dan Morgan Canales regime, I'm telling you, y'all, we in good hands. This thing gonna turn around real quick for us. But let's take a look at some stats from today. So, obviously, we see the box score turned out 30-27. But, man, just look at that stat line between Bryce and Pat Mahomes. I mean, Pat had 3 touchdowns. We had mad red zone opportunities. We had an opportunity where maybe Tommy Tremble could have scored. If that was JT Sanders, that's probably a score. And I know one would think like, man, Bryce was a little high on that throw because him and Tremble had built some chemistry last year and even some a little bit this year. But really, to me, I feel like he's more anticipating with the throw of someone like JT Sanders being there. So I'm not going to really give Tremble a hard time for that because that's a hard play to make in the red zone. The red zone is the toughest place. And when you're playing against the league's, first or second best defense, depending on, what week you play them and how their stats look, they're one of the top defenses in the league for a reason. And when it gets in condensed spaces like that, it gets really tough. But running the ball, I feel like we could have done a little bit better job at that. And you could see that started to become a thing later in the game when it mattered the most. So we ran it when it mattered. But what I'm really more proud of than anything else, and I know there were some questionable calls with Dave Canales, and I'm sure people will talk about that, but I'm happy at the fact that he is trusting his young quarterback. He put the ball in Bryce's hands and said, hey, man, go out and do some things for us. Bryce had some major throws against pressure. Bryce had some incredible throws on third downs. Bryce uncorked the ball to Xavier Legette that put it only where he could catch it, and he dropped it. And that's starting to become a thing. That's something we'll talk about later this week in another video. But the point is that you could see hey, I trust this guy now. That's my guy. This is his team, right? So at this point, what you would want to see is just more development. Continue to develop in that way, right? I mean, just the box score doesn't tell the real story of the excitement that existed in the game. The stat line, I mean, everything about this game was just absolutely incredible. I was just very pleased to be a Panthers fan. I'm very pleased to rock the keep pounding, and to be somebody that has, as a content creator, stood in the fire, even when I take shots. And I'm cool with that, right? Even when I take shots from people that are like, oh man, Carolina ain't never gonna be no good, or, you a Bryce Young apologist, all that kind of stuff. Hey, look, I'll be that. I'm a roll for my team regardless. But I'm excited, y'all. I'm looking forward to a huge week of content. We got so much to talk about. But in the meantime, let me know how you felt about the game. I felt like this game was incredible. I felt like this game was, just a moment of clarity for us of where we're going, where we're headed, what could be up for us, how we could really, have some serious. I hope that this doesn't become like a game that puts them in a mindset where they're just kind of high on the, man, we almost beat the Chiefs, and then they fall flat against Tampa. I don't think that's going to happen. I told y'all before, I think we're going to split with Tampa, and I believe we're going to beat Tampa when we play them next week. But either way, let me know what y'all think below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. I'm John from the One Carolina Show. This is going to be an interesting week of content, y'all. Can't wait. Keep pounding.